We'll be starting in 1 minute. Well, good morning. This is Terry Albrecht with the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality and Waste Reduction Partners. I'll be your session moderator. I wish to welcome you to today's webinar titled Striking Energy Gold with DOE Treasure Hunts. Energy efficiency and improved energy use management remains one of the most effective ways for businesses and industries to reduce their operating costs, especially in our uncertain times of COVID-19. Energy use reduction and carbon reduction goals are high on the list of many businesses' sustainability initiatives. And during today's webinar, we're very excited to share important federal DOE and state resources to help your industrial plant to be more efficient on the sustainability journey. Today's webinar is being hosted by the Department of Environmental Quality, including our state's Environmental Stewardship Initiative and the DEECS Division's Waste Reduction Partner Program. This is part of an energy management series that we launched last October and have had numerous outreach events through the course of the past year and a half. We appreciate the support of the Land to Sky Regional Council that administers the Waste Reduction Partner Programs and hosts this platform that we're using. And a special thanks to our partner today, the Department of Energy and Oak Ridge National Labs and the Better Plants programs and staff. We have over 45 registrants on this webinar today, and about half of those are manufacturers and industry. We have a good portion of government programs and other other engineer and service providers, and about 10% of our audience are utilities, mostly in the water and wastewater sector. So we want to thank you all for being here today. Here's a quick glimpse of today's agenda. After a few introductions and housekeeping, we're going to have our featured presentation by Daryl Cox with Oak Ridge National Labs, who I'll introduce in just a minute. We're going to have a peer case example from Walt Brockway with Alcoa, and then we're going to have a couple of state resource presentations, just brief overviews of some state resources by Waste Reduction Partners and the Environmental Stewardship Initiative. That will be followed by a 20-minute block of question and answers hosted by my colleague Scott Pfister, and then we'll be wrapping up. So we'll be ending by 11:30 today, if not sooner. Okay, just a couple of quick housekeeping items. If you're new to this GoToWebinar platform, you can open up your window into full view. You can reduce your menu, your control panel menu, by pressing this little red arrow, and that'll reduce that control panel if it's in your viewway. If you're having any kind of audio issues, I suggest that you use your phone, and there's a phone number on your invitation link in your email. We will be recording the slides and sending those out to each of you. So there'll be a recording and PDF of our slides. And if you're having any issues, please send me a text or give me a call, and I'll help you through any issues. All of our participants today are going to be, or attendees will be muted. So the way that you can participate is to ask questions by using your question menu bar on your control panel, and I encourage you to write those questions in as we go through the presentations today, and they'll be handled by Scott Pfister in our Q&A period. Okay, that brings me to introduce our featured speaker. So I'm very excited and honored to have Mr. Daryl Cox with us today. that works for Department of Energy and Oak Ridge National Labs and their Better Plants programs. And I'm going to pass him the presenter mode here as I continue my introduction. Mr. Cox has been on the research staff of Oak Ridge National Labs since 1990. He's had a major focus on energy optimization and industrial pumping systems, and he manages the industrial partners programs of the Better Plants program. Mr. Cox has also worked as an engineering design for the Tennessee Valley Authority's nuclear power program. He holds a BS in mechanical engineering from the University of Cincinnati and holds several certifications in energy management. So Daryl, with that, I want to thank you for joining us today to talk about the Better Plants program and treasure hunts. We see your screen.
Thanks, Jerry. My pleasure. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to start with an overview of Better Plants program, kind of because the treasure hunt specifics or focus kind of falls under that. So we deal with the umbrella and then we dive into the specifics. So what is the Better Plants program? Well, it's free. It's voluntary partnership between the Department of Energy and manufacturers. And through that program, people set their long-term goals. It's about reducing energy intensity, not just lowering energy consumption. We're focusing more on specific energy intensity, because if you just want to cut energy consumption, do less. We don't want business to do less. We want you to do more. That's good for your success, but we want you to use the minimum amount of energy to do that. So when we look at our footprint, yes, we're all over the place. Somebody asked me about the colors and they said, well, how come there's some places that have less than 10? Is that a program focus? The map represents where industry is, where manufacturers are. So obviously the program just kind of follows where manufacturing locations are. But the interesting thing is we have over 235 partners at this time, and that represents a large number of plants. We're approaching 2 quadrillion BTUs of energy cumulative savings now. So yeah, it does have a chance to have a pretty broad reach. If you look at this slide, all that does is say who some of the big players are, and you'll recognize a lot of those names up there. Obviously, with 235 people, we don't have everybody up there. That's on the website, though. So then the big question a lot of people ask us is, why should we partner with Better Plants? Well, for one thing, you get free technical assistance. You're going to get a technical account manager. That's a good resource. That's your one-stop shop, your contact for all things Better Plants. In-plant trainings, and the Treasure Hunt Initiative is one of the in-plant training events that we have. There's resources. When the slides are sent out, you'll notice that these are all links that will take you to more information. So I don't really need to spend lots and lots of time on this. You want to take a deep dive, those links are there. It gets you into the to the Better Plants, into the Solution Center. You can get a lot of information there. But when you look at our resources, lots of things are there. We're going to go through that briefly, including supply chain engagement, because companies don't exist in and of themselves in a lot of places. There's a supply chain. You got stuff coming in, you got stuff going out. It also lets people engage in peer-to-peer networking. Now, when you get to your technical account manager, and I'm one of several for the program, we help with setting an energy baseline and tracking progress. And that's a big thing. If you're not measuring, you're not controlling anything. So we really help people understand what their energy consumption looks like. What is that profile? And then identify areas to improve that. When we look at our in-plant trainings, we actually have several topics, and we're still adding to that. But we do deep dives in compressed air pumps, steam, process heating, fans, these type of things where we will spend 3 to 5 days on a specific system. The energy treasure hunts really will still spend 3 days on that but it's across the plant. It's not the deep, deep dive, and we're not looking at the large capital projects. This is at a different level. But again, different types. And again, we're adding to that constantly. We also have a diagnostic equipment program. And one reason this becomes important later on for our treasure hunts is we do have some instruments that are set aside to actually go out into the plant and quantify what's going on. I mean, you're looking at thermal changes, quantifying heat, looking at compressed air systems or fluid systems, water systems. So we've got the ultrasonic flow meters and the pressure transducers and the data loggers and all of this stuff. We can loan those to Better Plants participants for a limited amount of time to help them quantify. And again, that helps them either to do things that they don't do on a normal basis, otherwise they just go by it, but it also helps them to do short-term things like treasure hunts or specific energy assessments. It also lets them do a use before buy. So these things do have their advantages. And I actually manage that program, so we spend time helping people to understand how to get the best measurement, to get the data that they need. Nobody collects data just to have data. You collect data to make decisions or to enable a decision. So we try to get to the root of that. What is it you want to know? What do you need to know to make your decision, and help support them from that standpoint. Our software tools help us to actually quantify that. A lot of people are not engineers. Well, how do you take an opportunity and determine what it's worth? What is its value? It may make a lot of sense, but it doesn't represent a cost-effective solution. And when I say that, as an example, you may have a half horsepower motor out there and the application is wasteful, but when you look at the energy consumed by that half horsepower motor in a year, you can't deploy a lot of engineering resources on fixing that one problem. It doesn't pay for itself. So how do you quantify the benefit of an opportunity or a perceived opportunity such that you can make an informed decision on moving forward and addressing that? I'm not saying we don't go for small stuff, but you have to put it in proper order or proper perspective. Also gives participants access to DOE and therefore the National Lab Research and Development. Each year until the pandemic hit, we were doing tours at our facilities. As you can see, 2017 was OR&L. Then we went to the National Renewable Energy Lab in 2018. We went to the West Coast, not PNNL, Berkeley Lab in 2019. So you get to see what's on the horizon, what technologies are being developed. One of the things that we're doing now is we're rolling out a technology validation program that will help our participants understand. When everybody gets approached by somebody that has the next great thing that's going to save energy, nobody really wants to be the test case. So what we're doing is rolling out a program that will help us to evaluate in a real life application. What does this look like? What are the real savings? Let's quantify it. Let's write it up. Let's get it out there. So again, that leads us to our annual events, the Better Building Summit, and IETC, which is always in Texas, and the World Energy Engineering Congress. We got links to all of those. And it's amazing how much information transfer takes place over a cup of coffee or at breaks. And there's also a lot of training and stuff that goes on, but a lot of things happen when people get together. You share information, and that's a big thing, is sharing how somebody else has already solved a problem you may be trying to figure out. Part of the program involves our national recognition through social media, through the awards, through DOE leadership, there's blog articles. We have a lot of ways to basically publicize what the good things that our partners are doing. Again, you'll see lots of links to the Solution Center. A lot of solutions are there that we don't want you reinventing the wheel. So how things have been done, how to handle assessments and treasure hunts and success stories, case studies, technical information. There's just a lot of stuff in there. Oop, one too far. So again, left you a link for that one. New is a financing navigator. Great to have an idea, but you got to pay for it. So the finance navigator is there to help people navigate those waters and find ways to get financing done. The supply chain initiative, we've got 5 partners right now working through that, but those suppliers receive technical support. It's almost like they are Better Plans partners. So they're getting the same access to resources that our Better Plans partners get to help that supply chain. Now, one, it reduces, as on a national level, that's still helping to reduce energy or improve energy consumption by reducing that energy footprint or reducing their waste. What that does is help their partner in that supply chain, the person they're working with, that helps them cut costs. So the big partner, they're getting lower costs. The supply chain partner is lowering their cost. That makes them more competitive. So there's benefit all the way around. And then as a country, we reap the benefits both environmentally and economically of them doing that. The water efficiency initiative, I'm sure everybody has seen that, we are going to have problems with clean water at some point in the future. And certain places right now, that's an initiative. That's a problem. That there are a lot of people that basically water decisions, water availability can determine where industry can and cannot function well. So we've still got an initiative there to help reduce that also. The industrial assessment centers work for a lot of small and medium-sized businesses. And that's through our universities. That involves a lot of graduate students and senior professors. That's also free. So left your link for that one also, both the industrial assessment centers and the CHP technical assistance partnership. There's actually one of the centers is in North Carolina. So at NC State. So that's definitely something that can be of value to you. The 50,001 Ready is along the lines of, well, it's an offshoot of the ISO 50001 program. 50,001 Ready is designed to be self-paced. It's done at your level, doesn't result in the certification. You can't hang a certificate in the lobby that says, like we're ISO 9001 or 14,001 certified. You don't get that, but you reap the benefits of the structure of that program. That can help you a lot. And where we're not short on time, I can tell you, big problems that I've seen in the past where if your program is basically invested in a person and not a process, you stand to lose traction when that person is no longer there. So the 50,001 Ready helps you put together a program or a process such that your energy optimization efforts continue despite the loss of a person. So we don't need to spend too much time on that. But again, we come down to why partner with Better Plans? Well, consider partnering if controlling operating costs is important. If you want or need technical assistance, if you're interested in networking with other industry sectors, with other peers, it's a very good opportunity and it's a good benefit. And if you want to be recognized for what you're doing, and that's becoming a bigger and bigger focus nowadays, that sustainability efforts are being evaluated both by consumers and investors. So people want to know, are you doing the right things? Why are you doing the right things? How do we know what you're doing? This gives you a chance to get your story out there. Joining is easy. That's simple. Anybody, you can handle that. Left you a link for it. information. If you've got questions, easy to contact me. So that part's not a problem at all. So with that being said, what I'd like to do is switch over just a little bit to get that one up there. I had to roll up a slide. The treasure hunt overview, because that's really what we're talking about today. Now, then we get into a question. What is an energy treasure hunt? Okay, 3 to 5 day event. And really the big focus is on day-to-day stuff, operational and energy efficiency improvements. What we're looking at there are not the big capital projects, but it's the things that what do we do on a daily basis that causes us problems, that costs us. So, and I like to use this term, what we're looking for is energy scrap, because that's what waste is. When you're using energy that doesn't give you any benefit. Anybody that's been through lean manufacturing training, you know that scrap is something you can't sell, the customer is not going to pay for it. Well, wasted energy is energy scrap. We're trying to reduce that energy scrap rate. So anything that contributes to generating scrap is on the table. When we look at operational energy efficiency improvements, turn it off when you're not using it, change your set points, automate things that we sometimes forget to do, or recovering that wasted energy. When we look at an energy treasure hunt versus an energy assessment, again, the energy assessment is a deep dive, single system. Can be a standalone event. Now, I have seen people that do this periodically, but not like the same terms as a treasure hunt. Treasure hunt is a continuous process. You repeat it on a periodic basis for optimal benefit. But we're looking at the no cost, low cost versus big changes. We're not changing out boilers as a result of a treasure hunt, typically. So just put a capsule around it. 3 phases. First phase is planning. The big thing is get leadership support, get their buy-in. You got to have your leadership behind you. If they aren't behind you, you're not really going anywhere. You get your data on your current energy usage. For me, it's always about, not always, but a big part of this is getting your equipment specs. What does it do? What is it supposed to do? When you start looking at pumps or compressors, centrifugal devices, and I'll put it that way, they have a best efficiency point. Fans do, pumps do, centrifugal compressors, where they like to operate in a particular place. Where is that? And now I digress a little into the assessment side, but don't artificially put a device on its best efficiency point. It might be happy there, but you're still wasting energy. But get those equipment specs to know what is it supposed to do, but then understand your process parameters. Why is it supposed to do this? Why do we need this temperature? Why do we need this pressure? Why do we need that flow rate? Because you may have exactly what was spec'd, but what was spec'd was to support a process that's 30 years old, not what you're doing today. You move from planning to execution. You create your teams, you identify the opportunities, you quantify the opportunities, and then you present that to management. The big thing is follow-up. Right now, I'm not a gambler, but I can use an analogy from there. At this point, you got chips. You don't have cash. Your winnings are just something that represents gain. Until you cash in those chips, until you cash a check that's sitting in your pocket, you don't have the benefit that it represents. So develop an implementation plan, track the progress. Hurdles are going to show up. Address those. Quantify the success, because that's what you have to feed back to management. They're not down into the nitty-gritty details. They want to know, are we saving? Quantify that success, broadcast that, but then put efforts in place to sustain it. You don't want people to say, okay, we'll do this while everybody's watching, and then I'm going back to the way we've always done it. That just undoes everything you've invested in. So from the participant perspective, everybody has a role. And a lot of people think, okay, well, the energy guy is going to go do this. No, in a treasure hunt, everybody has a role. Your process people, the production people, the maintenance people, even procurement people can have an impact on your energy optimization. So you draw participants from all across your operation, and in a lot of cases from outside the host facility. They may be within that same organization. They may be from a different plant, but you can get people from outside the host facility. In an energy treasure hunt exchange, then you're pulling people that may be in a very different organization, very different operation, that are looking at what you do with fresh eyes, because they don't know what this is. They don't understand this is the way we've always done it. They just come in and say, does that make sense? If you go to the DOE website and you look at the swap, one of the more recent ones was L'Oreal, the cosmetics manufacturer, and General Motors. They exchanged teams, and it was one of those, okay, we see these things in your operation. It's amazing what we can become, as they say, nose blind to, or, well, it made sense because we never questioned it. Somebody that doesn't understand your operation doesn't have a problem with questioning that. So given that we can work inside and outside the facility or draw people from other places, then what we do is think about looking beyond the production floor. Think about what things can be happening that consume significant resources. One of the things would be buying cheap. If we're looking at the procurement organization, buying it cheap can be very expensive, because if you look at what people have to, the resources that have to be expended to overcome buying it cheap, you have to look at the whole process. I can give a real short example. Look at one facility and looking at gas consumed and the time, the labor expenses for a welding process. And when you start talking to the welder, the welder comes back and says, well, we're buying cheap metal. I can make this thing, but I welded all the impurities in the cheap metal surface, grind it out, start over, grind it out, start over. They said, if I had clean material, if they spent a little bit more on the raw material, I'd spend a fourth of the time trying to get a good weld here. But you got a great price on cheap steel. But then you spend a lot of time, which is production time, trying to overcome the fact that you got cheap steel. Those type of things, not the all-encompassing, but it's that mindset, that idea of let's look at our organization, let's look at everything we do, talk to everybody involved in the process because they know their area. So we aim to educate everybody on what the treasure hunt is, how to evaluate equipment energy. Definitely look at both idle and non-idle times. Well, we understand what is going on when it's, we're functioning, we're in the middle of production. Don't forget idle time. What's it doing then? And then how to identify opportunities. We go over how to collect data and some of the tools, and then how to effectively present those outcomes. But again, with a treasure hunt, you're training, we bring in a facilitator, and this is from the DOE side. We'll send in a Walt Brockway, who has done this literally over 100 times in facilities all across the country, and some that are international. But you get in a facilitator, now you're training somebody locally to be a facilitator that can carry on this process, because you don't want it to die. Just, we did it once and we're done. Train that set of eyes that can continue this. So you look at how to select plants and departments and use the tools, and how to get the right team, how to prioritize, how to replicate. If you're a corporation, you do it at this plant. How do you spread it somewhere else? If you're one plant, if you look at one particular department, how do you get it into the other departments? And again, how to package it so that management can pick it up and run with it. Their job is not to understand all the technical details. Our job is to package it such that they understand it in their language quickly and can make a decision, because that's what management is there for. They're there to make the decisions, provide the resources. So we have to convey that opportunity in a form and a format that they understand. So quick stats, 90% of the opportunities identified, and this is some historical data, less than 1 year payback. When you look at the savings captured versus identified, 55% of the ideas generated end up getting implemented. So over half of them, not a bad implementation rate. When we look at our guidelines, this is just an agenda, kind of, okay, here's what we do. The one thing to note here is that typically there's a Sunday. For businesses that don't operate 24/7, Sunday is a down day. You would be amazed at what you will find in plants that could or should be turned off, that's operating when nobody's there and when it has no production value. So how do we approach it? You tour, you observe, you identify, you collect, and then you document. Big thing is use your eyes, use your ears, ask questions. The biggest question that I always have is why? Why are you doing it that way? Why do you need that much to do it? Now, there's ways to do this, and as engineers, we can come off as confrontational, when really all we're trying to do is, we're not trying to insult somebody. We're not trying to say, go justify your existence, but it's one of those, okay, we're spending money to do it this way. Why? Anybody that's ever sent a child to college would ask that question. I understand the amount of money you're asking for. Why do you need that? Because why do you need a pizza budget when I'm paying for a meal plan? Well, you get a whole lot of answers off of that one. But it's that, well, why do you do it this way? Use the eyes, use the ears, ask the questions. So again, we go back to what are the big questions? What need is being filled by operating this equipment? We say, well, okay, it makes X. No. Right now, when that conveyor is not running, there's no product going out the door. Why is this on? Why do we do it that way? A lot of cases, people ask, or when we change processes, products, new products get introduced, the line itself doesn't change. It still functions, but it's not optimal. Do we need that much pressure? Do we need that much flow? Do we need this high or low temperature? Well, no, that's what it was for the last product. It works for this one, so we just left it alone. Okay, but it's costing us. Is specific energy constant? Is that energy per unit of production constant? And when I ask that, is it constant? Obviously, it's going to change. But that ratio, when production goes down, does our energy consumption go down by an equivalent amount? There are going to be fixed costs. So are they going to track one for one? No, because no production doesn't mean no energy. But when we look at it and say specific energy doesn't change regardless of our production level, that's an indicator of a problem. You want to look at these things and say, okay, startup and shutdown. Is there a way to reduce it? Do we reduce our fixed energy? Do we control that variable energy? Do we control operating time, shutdowns, set points? Do we move to just in time? These type of things. When we look at opportunities in lighting, turn off the excess. Now we're into the things that kind of come to mind. Whenever possible, turn it off. Do the lights need to be on? And in any area that is automated, machines don't need lights. They don't care. You need minimum safe lighting for aisles and whatnot. but it doesn't need to be bright in there. Control lighting levels. You don't need high intensity lighting in a warehouse. You need it where you're doing examination. If you're looking at the paint job, you want very good lighting. If you're in a warehouse, you just don't need that. Stairwells, places where the lights are on in the daylight, places where you could use natural lighting instead of powered lighting, all of these kind of things. Use LEDs where possible. In steam systems, look for leaks, look for broken traps, condensate leaks, tune the boiler. Are you getting the most out of the fuel that you're putting into it? Poor missing insulation, put that stuff back. A lot of times if you had to work on a system, especially in large plants or union plants, if you run into that, pipe fitters are not insulators. So pipe fitters may have finished, the insulators haven't gotten to it. In the meantime, you're sitting there leaking energy. With compressed air systems, this is a biggie. Find your leaks. Go to the lowest set points. Don't use compressed air for things you can do electrically. Compressed air costs an horrendous amount of money. You know, do your leak surveys and try to control the open blowing. That's just, let's face it, folks, 60, 65% or more of the energy put into compressing air is lost as heat of compression. So on a good day, if you have an absolute wonderful system, 2/3 of the energy you put into it is gone as heat. You're not getting production value out of it unless you can recover that heat. But as far as compressed air goes, 2/3 of that electricity is down the drain. So don't use compressed air where compressed air is not needed. Look at exhaust. Exhausts typically run all the time. It's not uncommon. So be aware, are things running, again, when they have no production value? These are things that you find out Sunday afternoon. When that, or downtime, if you're one shift plant, do your treasure hunt off shift or part of the treasure hunt off shift. When it comes to process heating, your ovens, kilns, furnaces, make sure they're insulated. Look at your production scheduling. Okay, it's hard sometimes it's expensive to bring them up to temperature. You don't want to just turn it off to come back the next day so they stay on. Do your production scheduling such that you can run a batch and then you do have time to let this thing cool down because it doesn't need to stay on all the time. These kind of things. And that's why we go back and say, bring everybody in, understand your process, understand your production scheduling, these kind of things. Those can be valuable members of the team because they can help you identify opportunities that may not occur to operating people. Again, we go through cooling towers, in your process equipment. One of the things, and you're going to get the slides so we don't have to spend scads of time on each one of them. One of the things that's not shown in this picture, we talk about process equipment, but also if you look at a place like this, quite often you'll see on the HVAC side, you'll just see rooftop units, you'll see ducts. How is your air distribution system set up? Is it set up to actually drop that air down to your operating level? Because you can be making a whole lot more hot or cold air than is necessary to overcome the fact that that discharge is up here instead of somewhere down here to get more effective cooling. Now you can do that with nozzles and other things, but if you're not getting that conditioned air down to where it needs to be, you can spend a lot of excess money on conditioned air. Saw a plant that did this. It was a manufacturing facility, and their energy, when we got into regression analysis of that energy, it was modeled, and I had a 90, between 98 and 99% accurate model relative to whether it was hot or cold outside. It had nothing to do with their production level. I had an extremely accurate model, and all it had to deal with was weather. Their production was, in essence, insignificant. Shouldn't be like that. You document it. We use our opportunity sheets. Those are part of the information that you'll get. And a lot of this is available on the website. And again, when we're looking at our resources, use the energy calculators, use the handouts, use the equipment you want to quantify. Again, you want to know what's the value of this opportunity. It may sound good. Is it going to pay off or pay back? We use those energy calculators on the big site, use the measure tool, free download. Measure can go system specific or treasure hunt. Use opportunity specific calculators. Those are also provided as part of the treasure hunt kit. Again, there are calculators, there's that whole suite out there that can be used. Use the tools, quantify things, count things, look at the temperature, look at the pressure, look at the flow. Understand that measurement, understand how to get those, how to deploy those, understand which things you want to keep an eye on later. You can also identify needs for sub-metering here that you may want to implement things to track on a more regular basis instead of a one-time measurement or a periodic measurement. Some things, if we have the information, operators can do a better job. I will send Terry a list of a package actually of those handouts, their PDF files for compressed air system, pumping systems, steam, process heat, all of this stuff. They're PDFs, they're available on the DOE website. Instead of having you go search through that to find all those different info cards, I can send those to Terry. As part of the process, we go through the checklist of things to look for, go through our data collection sheets, you go through those system handouts and cheat sheets. Tremendous amount of the stuff that I rolled through really fast is contained rather in this link. You go to the Better Building Solutions Center, you go to the Better Plants program, and you look at energy treasure hunts. And a lot of this is there. Calculators, tip sheets, data sheets, the process outline, it's in there. And that part is free. Use at will. We want you to be successful. So in trying to get our hands around this, if you look at the summary, walk through, observe. And I know it sounds crazy, the old Yogi Bear saying, hey, you can learn a lot, you can see a lot by looking. It's a paraphrase, but you don't see what you're not looking for in many cases. Identify those opportunities, collect the relevant data, quantify. Why is this an opportunity? Why is it a good opportunity? Summarize all that in your opportunity sheets, collect all of those, collate all of those. But then you'll notice the big arrow, do it again. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but you don't stop looking. It's continuous improvement. The things that we do to manufacturing, we also do with energy. We want continuous improvement. So with that said, that was the really fast overview. And again, Walt's going to be on just a second. Walt knows a lot more about this than I do. Tremendous working knowledge of this process, and highly encourage you to reach out to him also. But with that, Terry, I can turn it back to you at the moment.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you, Daryl. What an immense amount of just great information on the Better Plants resources and the systematic processes of treasure hunts. Really, really great information. So we're looking forward to talking more about that. So with that, we wanted, before we were going to do questions, so I want you to be thinking about your questions. We have a couple more pieces before we get to Q&A. But next, we've got a peer case example with Mr. Walt Brockway, who is the former global energy manager for Alcoa, and he's going to speak with some of his experiences doing treasure hunts with Alcoa, and he's also works as a contractor and has performed many more treasure hunts in contract with Oak Ridge National Lab. So I wanted to invite Walt to unmute and jump in and share some experiences with us.
Sure thing. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, good morning.
Okay, great. Thanks. So I'm going to do my 5 to 10 minute version of treasure hunts. Daryl covered the details, and there's plenty of details, and I'd be happy to answer any questions on those either now or give me a call or send me an email later. So let me give you my 10-minute version. First off, DOE is a great partner. I mean, I do work with DOE now, and I do work with a number of other clients. But in my days at Alcoa, DOE was absolutely an asset to the energy program that I managed. Good partners. As far as treasure hunts and in-plant training, DOE provides great resources in both people and tools. I've used them. I'm now part of them at times, at least on treasure hunts. So the resources are great, not only the people, but the physical tools and the software tools and all the things you might find on that website that Daryl pointed out just before he finished up. It's good stuff. So let me go into treasure hunts real quickly and just some highlights. And as Daryl mentioned, I've done over 100 of these, so I don't know if that makes me an expert, or maybe it just makes me kooky for doing that. But here's what I find really important, and it's not as technical as you might think. It's about people, as everything is, of course, from the top to the bottom. And by that I mean from the top being it's important to have sponsorship at the highest level, is what I say, whether that be a corporate sponsorship, that be a plant management sponsorship, if it's a department level sponsorship, all of those are important. And it's important that that be communicated, so that folks that are involved knows that this has sponsorship from the top level. They really want this done. We're not just doing this for fun, and it is fun. And then we can dip into, so sponsorship's important. Facilitator is important. Now, if you're doing one with DOE, or maybe you got someone else in, you can have a hired hand as a facilitator. The ultimate goal should be to be trained so that someone within the plant, within the company, can facilitate these should you wish to move forward with them. But it's important to have someone who can facilitate, who can do crowd control, who can make sure that we're getting teams to do what they want to do, we're getting feedback, all those things that come along with facilitating a process, and usually a process with a number of engineers involved, so a bit of a herding cat scenario. The other important thing is, so we, and it varies, I've done these when we only have 2 people, and I've done these when we have 40 people. Typically we'll form teams and we'll go in the plant and look for opportunities. The things that Daryl just went through is what we're looking for. There's specialties. It depends on what we're, if we're in an auto plant, we're going to look for different things than we might in a pharmaceutical plant, than we might in a corn processing plant. But it's important to have those right people, the right number of people. And this, an important part of that is not just, so if you think like I do, it's like, well, okay, I'm an engineer or I'm a maintenance person, so that's what we need. Yes, we need the technical folks. Yes, we need the maintenance folks. We also need process people, and we need people that are on the floor. They're the ones that can say, maybe this is an opportunity, help me understand if it is. And by doing that, whether it be an engineer or maintenance person, or more so a process person, they're going to own it. If we come across, I'm actually doing a virtual treasure hunt this morning. If we say, hey, look, there's a machine over there, there's no product going in and it's running. Does it need to run? If the process person is able to say, oh, I think I could shut that off for 30 minutes every 3 hours, they own that process then. They've helped with it. So important to have the technical folks, have the maintenance folks, have process people, and anybody else. I've had folks from marketing, I've had folks from sales, I've had plant managers. Any of those people are another set of eyes to look around the plant and look for opportunities and bring up those questions. And I will add to that, it's always good to have electricians, mechanics, people that are on the floor. They're the ones that are going to say, and this is absolutely true, they're going to say, oh yeah, this is how that thing really works. So we might say, well, you can change this and you can turn the valve, and they're going to say, no, here's how it really works. and here's what I think the opportunity is. So critical to get those people, critical to get all disciplines involved, many as we can. Like I've said, I've done these with 2 people, I've done these with 40 people. It's, that's a matter of crowd control for the facilitator. The other person is, if you have a large number and we split into teams, is a team leader. Now that team leader doesn't have to be super technical or anything. What we need is someone that can say, this is the direction of my team. We're going to keep the team moving. Oftentimes, being engineers, we like to go down a rabbit hole and we never come back out again. We need a team leader that is going to say, hey, this is the area of the plant we're going to cover. We've looked at this opportunity. We've taken notes. Let's move on to the next one. Keep the team moving. Report out for the team. Help with the calculations. Of course, facilitators are going to do that as well. And then when we're done with that, follow up. If we've done the treasure hunt or whatever assessment we might do, is there follow up? I can tell you, if I'm doing it as a contractor or I'm doing it as a DOE facilitator, I don't know about follow up. And what I'll often say is, look, I'm here for 3 days and then I'm gone. Who is going to follow up to assure that processes are, if we've suggested a change, we've suggested an improvement, is it viable, and will it be followed through with? On the is it viable part, I very often, if I'm facilitating, I will say, look, this is your facility, this is your plant. If we come up with something and you say, we're just not going to do that, well, then take it off the table. This is not an audit. This is an opportunity. This is a chance to find opportunity to reduce energy consumption at the facility. So follow-up is important. And I would say that the most successful ones that I have seen have had a good leader, a good facilitator, and the right number of people involved with the process. If we show up and say, hey, by the way, we're going to have had this happen to me. Oh, by the way, we're going to do this treasure hunt thing today. You've pretty much written a ticket for a failure. It's pre-planning, it's people, it's follow-up. So that's my 5-minute version. Happy to answer any questions or dive into any details if anyone would like that.
Great. Well, thank you so much for that. We are going to get to questions in just a minute. So I want to encourage all of our attendees to be typing your questions in your question box, and Scott Pfister will be managing those in just a second. So Walt, thank you so much for sharing such great wisdom on some of the details of the treasure hunts, and looking forward to having a good Q&A in just a minute or two. So if you can hang with us, Walt, that'd be great. All right. Very good. So we wanted to do two very brief kind of resource overviews for both Waste Reduction Partners and the Environmental Stewardship Initiative. So these are both 2 North Carolina programs. Waste Reduction Partners works in partnership with NCDEQ, and it's managed by the Land of Sky Regional Council. It is essentially a field technical assistance group of about 40 retired engineers, scientists. We have architects and other business professionals, and they provide their time to work with you, with your business or your manufacturing site on sustainability strategies. So we do energy work. It's probably much more abbreviated than what we were just hearing from the treasure hunt, but we do level 1 and level 2 ASHRAE audits. We also help manufacturers with zero waste to landfill solutions and recycling markets. We have a big emphasis on water efficiency strategies that can help save money and improve your environmental performance. And then any other kinds of pollution prevention strategies that can help you with potentially regulatory issues or just smarter approaches towards environmental management. Our team really focuses on doing a cost-benefit analysis for the opportunities that we help you identify, and deliver that in a way that we can show both your cost savings and the environmental benefits of the assistance. So just in the past 5 years, our team has worked with about a little over 700 entities. These span the globe across non-residential sectors. So we do work with a fair share of manufacturers, but we also work with other commercial entities and local governments and schools and even nonprofits. So we've helped folks save over $22 million since 2015 with a lot of energy and other environmental savings. So if you'd like to reach out to us, please contact us on our website through Initiate a Project or give me a call. Of late, we too are struggling with how to function in a virtual environment. So we're not actually going on site with our assessors at the moment, but we are doing more specific kinds of assessment strategies that are more focused, that might be around lighting. We just worked on an electrification boiler and electrification study for a local government that has set some renewable energy goals to reduce their use of fossil fuels. And so they were struggling with how to do, a capital investment of an electric boiler and how best to approach that. And to meet their objectives, they kind of had to back up and think a little bit more holistically about their entire system to make those numbers work. So we work on, individual kinds of projects like that. So contact Waste Reduction Partners if you would like to learn more about us. Next up, I wanted to introduce Marcia Alaco. She is the section chief with the Environmental Assistance section of our Division of Environmental Assistance and Customer Service, and she's going to share a little about the Environmental Stewardship Initiative. So Marcia?
Good morning, everyone. I took a sneak peek at our registration. I saw a lot of our ESI members on this morning, so welcome. Thanks for joining us. We look at your annual reports and try to identify services that would be important to you. If you are not an ESI member and would like to learn about what we do, we've got the information here, but also reach out to us so we can speak to you about how ESI might benefit you. And if you're not on our list or even to receive information about the events that we hold, please let us know that and we can add you to it. So ESI is a leadership and recognition program, and we try to promote and encourage superior environmental performance. It's voluntary and free, and that's done in part through a pollution prevention grant from EPA. We have 3 different membership levels, and so we try to promote, and both our members, they learn from each other through networking opportunities, try and promote conserving those natural resources. As Terry noted before, lots of folks are struggling with COVID. We've got, additional pressures on us, in our budget. So we'd love to assist you in identifying opportunities and making those happen. We have about 200 member sites across the state, and as you can see from that graph, our members reported in their annual reports, and that's only a subsection of our members, $11 million. So our members are doing great things. And I wanted to highlight, Daryl noted before that through their program, they have loaning of diagnostic equipment. That's actually something ESI is going to look for our members. We had some additional money left over in our ESI P2 grant last year, so you'll be hearing about that more. So ESI members, if there's something that piqued your interest today, either using of that diagnostic equipment or swapping staff to do treasure hunts, reach out to your coach and we'll try and help facilitate that. So we've got our contact information there, you've got our website, you've got our service account, so that goes to multiple ESI staff. And then Angela Barger and Don Burke are the 2 main staff members that make sure ESI runs as smoothly as it does. Big shout out to those 2 and the rest of our coaches. All right, Terry, if you just want to advance to the next slide. If you want to know some of the other organizations in North Carolina that are in the program, that's a splash page of all of our members. So thank you for the opportunity and thanks for attending today's webinar.
Okay, thank you so much, Marcia. Great resources for you to check into. Okay, very good. Well, I want to now introduce my colleague, Scott Pfister with the Environmental Stewardship Initiative, who's going to be managing our question and answers. So, Scott?
All right, thank you, Terry. Thanks, Marcia, and big thank you to Daryl and Walt. A lot of great information, and they covered so much. There are still some questions, and just start off with one. And most of these questions are probably going to go to Daryl and Walt, but I'll definitely call them out if they're going to Marcia or Terry as well. So first off, I think this is on everybody's mind. You can probably predict the question that's coming up. How are you addressing treasure hunts in the time of COVID?
You want to hit that, Daryl, or you want me to talk about it?
I'll go ahead, Walt. I think you already
Okay.
touched it on the virtual because you're doing one right now. So
The short answer is with difficulty. It's not easy to walk down a plant when you're not there. So I have done now 3, maybe 4 treasure hunts virtually. It really takes even more focus on those people at the plant. We did one, and I think this is on the DOE site. We did a recording. We did one with Tyson Foods. I can say that because they were on this. And what made the difference is we had a really good leader from Tyson that was able to do all those things I said, corral the people, make sure we're headed in the right direction, we're looking at the right things. So I would say that was successful. I've done a few since then that were successful, and I hesitate a little bit because we had some bumps here and there, but we are able to do them virtually. It is the difficult part is being able to see things in the plant. So we've done things like use cameras where folks will go out and talk through the process. What I like to do when I do a treasure hunt is say, okay, bring me through the process. Start with the beginning where your product comes in, where your raw materials come in, and walk through the finished product, and we look for things. So we've been able to accommodate that. It's not been without some difficulties, but I think that with more experience, we'll get better at this and make them successful. Daryl, you might want to add to that.
yeah, I think the biggest challenge, actually it was a call I was on yesterday, when you're doing this virtually, is that if you're in plant, people participate. They do the homework. This is one of those, you can't just listen, don't listen to the PowerPoint and say, yeah, okay, I got that. It's, oh, hey, I get the principle from this presentation, but we have to go in the plant, we have to do things. You've got to implement. You can't just listen and things go fix themselves. And maintaining engagement virtually is one of the big challenges that we're seeing right now. Since, we don't have a facilitator in the plant to say, okay, everybody's in the room, we are going out and we are going to do this, this, and this. It's, okay, guys, we get off the computer, you have to go out and do that. Well, daily life gets in the way, there's an emergency, there's this, there's that, things happen, nothing gets implemented. So have a plan for that.
Great, thank you for that. And just as a follow-up, you'd mentioned, and there's great pictures of the equipment toolbox that you loan. Are there any additional things for folks to consider when receiving or when you all get it back?
When you say things to consider, I mean, we try to go through, what they're going to do, how they intend to do it, make sure they've got the right equipment. They may ask for something that is not necessarily the best resource to achieve their objective. So there's a little bit of interaction on my part to get them the right tools. Other than that, as far as the Better Plants program goes, we pay shipping both ways. So you get an instrument case, all you got to do is swap labels when it's time to send it back. Only thing we ask is that you don't break it.
Daryl makes it a very seamless process. Yeah, he makes it very seamless as far as getting equipment in, making sure we have the right stuff, the batteries are charged in the right compartments. And yes, he'll get mad at you if you break it.
Yeah, I just didn't know if due to just kind of follow up with the code, if you're doing any extra cleaning with it, or just, some folks might be concerned with that.
Well, ORNL actually went to to such lengths that we can now make our own. A lot of people are using the hypochlorous acid cleanings for sanitizing stuff. We built our own plant so we can make it on site. We don't have to worry about suppliers. So all I have to do is walk down the hall and change out the spray bottle if one runs empty. So I wipe it down before I start. When it comes back, I wipe it down because I don't want to bring anything home I wipe it down again before it goes out because I don't want to send anything that I may be unaware of. So it gets
That's great.
cleaned on both sides.
Great, thank you for that. So when folks are filling out or working with you all with better plants and treasure hunt forms, think about documentation. I'll even extend this to the ISO 50001 ready. What just within your experience, both Walt and Daryl, what trips folks up the most, and maybe what takes people the longest to gather or kind of fill out?
Well, for me, one of the big hurdles because of personnel turnover in a lot of cases, you have a lot of things that work out in a plant, and with staff reductions and everything else, people don't understand the process itself. They don't know why why your set points were established. Why is it this temperature? Why is it that flow? Why is it that pressure? Nobody knows. It's in a document somewhere, and nobody's ever even looked for it. They don't know it if it's there. In a lot of cases, it may not be in the plant records. Again, systems were designed, 10, 15, 20 years ago. So you don't have a basis to compare current operation against what's actually needed. People don't know what's needed. And that's a big challenge in a lot of cases.
Another, as far as paperwork, I read the question a little differently, is if you're a DOE partner, the paperwork involved in getting one of these awarded is simple. Now, not everyone gets it awarded. There's only a number given each half year, but filling out the application is pretty painless. And the other portion, if it's documenting opportunities and findings, this new measure tool that Oak Ridge has developed is a really nice tool. It really helps calculations and helps categorize, gather, and put all the opportunities in one place that are really pretty easy to reach out and grab. So if that's the question, that part of the paperwork is made pretty seamless by the Oak Ridge folks.
Good read, Walt. I missed that one.
Great, thank you. This next question goes primarily to Marcia, but Terry, if there's anything to add, feel free as well. Marcia, can you speak a bit more about what types of initiatives your ESI members are working on, especially those in the municipal setting without wastewater treatment sites? And you might be muted.
Thank you, Scott. Trying to be good and not make any noise here. Most of our non-industrial members are municipal sites that are water, wastewater providers, but we do have a couple government ones, federal, that are more research based. But the majority of our members are working on energy goals. I think that we're working on our 2019 report, and I remember we had 75 members that noted energy goals, and then the next largest one were water goals. So those are the two big things that folks are working on. And the other thing is some folks are implementing environmental management systems that don't have them right now. But really, the way our program is set up, organizations set the goals that make sense for them, and then the coach that's assigned to them tries to assist them in figuring out what resources they need, what can we help you with, are there other members that have done similar things that we can refer you to. And our highest level members, our ESI stewards, have committed to mentoring other members. So we have a large base of organizations and staff that really want to help each other and help organizations reach the goals that they've set for themselves.
Great. Hey, let me just jump in here, Terry Albrecht. as a partner with ESI, and then again working probably more in this kind of commercial setting, we're able to help with this, of course, energy assessments, water use assessments, and any targeted efforts you may have, and help addressing those goals in tandem with your ESI coach and other services there. So I'll just add that to that question.
Perfect. Thank you both. This next question will go to Daryl and Walt. Do you see an increase in interest in formalizing energy management through ISO 50001 and or ISO 50001 ready?
I would say yes. We are seeing an increase in people that are looking to not necessarily the formal ISO 50001 certification, but using the 50001 ready to get the benefits of an energy management system. That I do see an increase in. And again, as I tried to hit in the presentation, that's good for folks. You want to run by process, not by person. There's a danger in that, because, and although they haven't suffered the downside of it, let's just say you've got a Walt Brockway and Walt decides to retire and everything in that program is in Walt instead of what he did is putting a process in place. All that knowledge goes out the door with Walt. Now, what do? You start over. And that can be catastrophic if you don't plan for it. 50001 helps you to plan for something like that so that people still know what to do, when to do, and why to do.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with Daryl. I do think there is probably more traction with 50001 ready than 50001 certification, and that just depends on the business and advantages that come with full certification. But the document's a very good document. I did use it to develop a standard practice when I was at Alcoa, a standard practice on energy management. So there are very sound elements in the 50001 program, but I would say I've seen more traction on the 50001 ready, which is pretty much all but certification, and a pretty useful tool.
Great, thank you. This one again is for Daryl and Walt. Slightly biased here for North Carolina, but on your map there, showing the number of partners, it looked like North Carolina was in the higher levels there. Are we number one? And if not, how do we get there?
Well, I would have to go back to look at that numbers to know if you're right on top, but really it's about success. I mean, when you look at the people that have experienced success, word of mouth is just great advertising. So if people look at it and say, hey, we are actually getting good benefit from this program, tell folks, tell your supply chain, tell your other partners. I can't encourage you to go tell your competition, but anyone else, yes, just use the program, see the benefits. People tend to follow success. So the more successful you are, the more that helps us too.
I can't add to that. I agree.
Great. And this is for Daryl and Walt. So what, it's more of a personal question. I know I've done a few assessments, and the old coffee maker under the thermostat was a highlight of my day. What do you enjoy most when assisting folks, or what was your most rewarding project that you've worked on?
You want to take that one first, Walt?
Sure. That's a bit of a loaded question. What I enjoy most is when I see groups of people, whether it be teams or individuals, that are using the tools, in this case probably the measure tool, are performing calculations, and in the end saying, a light bulb comes on and says, hey, look, I found an opportunity, I calculated the value of this opportunity, I'm going to go implement it. To me, that's rewarding. Well, as far as what's the best project, I don't know if best is the right word. I've done assessments where, it's extremely rewarding. I was in Brazil and we looked, it wasn't just me, I had help. We were able to turn an air compressor off and it was $60,000 a year savings instantly. So that's another one that says, wow, I felt my worth on that one.
Yeah, I agree with Walt. We're not educators, but the moment that you look you look at their face and you look in their eyes and you see the little light bulb go off that says, I understand this principle and I can actually use this and I'm going to go do that. And you see them experience some success based on an idea that you've shown them, where they say, I own this now. I understand this and I own it and I can utilize it to make this company better. When you see a change in mindset that people say, we want to do this and we're going to be good at it. Those are great. As far as specific, I wouldn't say I've got a specific project, but I'm with Walt on that one too. When you get to the point of somebody starts asking a question and they can immediately make a change that makes their life better as well as benefits the company, that's a good day.
Agreed, that is a good day. And Marcia and Terry, I'd be remiss, I don't want to leave you two out. Do you have a special moment and what do you enjoy most about doing an assessment for folks?
Well, ESI, we do all kinds of different assessments, whether that's for, a renewal at a membership level or from, as Daryl notes, implementing an environmental management system. So ISO 14001, not 50001. It's really rewarding to see folks understand the concepts, figure out how they can use it, and really have pride in what they're doing, and that they're helping their organization. So.
Great. Yeah, and I'll chime in. I think one of the most rewarding things for us, as expressed by by both Walt and Daryl, is that when you're doing a walkthrough facility looking for opportunities and you have the right team with you and the right background information, sometimes I feel like just that process in itself, by having the right levels of management, staff up, staff down, operators, having those conversations on the shop floor is so enlightening, not only for the third party assessors, but sometimes for the management team or the facilities manager or the EHS person that we might be with, that really, makes them to ask more questions. As you said, turn that light bulb on, look for the solution, understand what the issue was, and move forward. Move forward with implementation. And many of these things that we're all talking about are in somewhat low-hanging fruit. Many of these paybacks are quick. They're in the manufacturing sector. It may have to be done in 18 months or pay back in less than 2 years. So these are all things that are sometimes very rewarding just in the change in operation. So I'll just add that.
Terry, can I throw one other thing in here?
Sure.
When you go to a plant, same company, different plant, and somebody tells you about a practice to save energy that you demonstrated somewhere else, but it's been leveraged basically. So now they're telling you about something that ultimately you taught somebody else. That lets you know that it's in the organization now, and that's a pretty good feeling that somebody picked it up, they taught somebody else who taught somebody else, and then it comes back, makes that circle and comes back to you. You know where it comes from. They didn't even know that you were the one that introduced it to the company. But that's also a pretty good feeling when something you've taught makes full circle and gets back to you through other channels.
That's great. I'm not seeing any more questions for the audience, but I know I have a couple questions. I'm a big fan of asking why as well, Daryl, and asking a lot of questions. And I can relate to your, I laughed out loud when you were talking about the food budget when you're paying for a meal plan. You probably already know this, but I'm guessing it rhymes with deer is what the extra money is being used for. So I've got a kind of an easy one, and then I've got more of a deep thought question. So I'll start off with the easy one here. We've already discussed ISO 50001, 50001 ready. There's some certifications around that. What other, if folks are looking to train their employees internally, I know there's a lot of training going on right now because folks are, there's a lot of self-reflection going on and a lot of introverted time. So what types of other energy management trainings, offerings, besides what you all do, or certifications just kind of exist out there that folks can tap into?
Whoa. Let's see, you can become I know in the 50,000, but the certified practitioner, basically you can basically learn how to be an auditor, not an auditor, an assessor. Audits are different. But how to be an assessor, how to look at a system, how to quantify, measure, process the data, all of that stuff. There's certified energy manager training. And then you get into specifics for types of equipment. I know with the Hydraulic Institute does some things on assessing pump systems. The Compressed Air Challenge does training on how to understand compressed air systems and go through all of that. Same thing with fans. ASHRAE's got training. It just, and it's taking off. There's more and more being developed, almost on a daily basis. So opportunities are all over the place. But it does come down to understanding the equipment, understanding the need, and then matching the two.
Yeah, I don't think there's one place to go. I'm scratching my head. And AEE, Association of Energy Engineers, is a good place. They do the certification, which is okay, good to have. They have some other courses and the things that Daryl mentioned, but I can't think of one place to go to say here's where we can find training. It's really a smattering around the patch.
Great. And Terry, Marcia, do you have any thoughts on that too?
Well, here in North Carolina, there's a professional energy manager certification that can be utilized. The state runs an energy management diploma series that you can reach out to a staff of the state energy office to learn more about that when that's being run, and it's offered for public employees. So those are two kind of close to home sessions, as well as there's a myriad of offerings through NC State and other providers. So lots to look for.
I was just going to add that, if there's something folks are interested in specifically, you can reach out to our staff and we'll try and help you figure out what trainings could be available.
I guess one more little piece I thought of as you're talking is NC State does have a very good program. Dan Mull was there. I don't know if he still is. Industrial assessment centers from universities are also an opportunity. They are pretty much a one-day assessment from typically an engineering professor with some engineering students. They'll spend the day on site, help find some opportunities, and provide some level of training.
Yeah, and we are partners with some of the NC State staff, so we can also make that connection if folks are interested.
Great, thank you all. I know Terry has some closing remarks coming up, but since we have Daryl and Walt, and really appreciate both their time here, just wanted to ask, this is more kind of a future forward question. A lot of states are working on a clean energy plan, a goal by 2050 to go carbon neutral, et cetera. And since we all work in the industrial commercial sector, there's a lot of heavy industry, and Walt, you can speak to this definitely personally, via Alcoa, but welding operations, metal smelting. There's a lot of heavy industry that it's going to take a lot to shift that into a carbon neutral situation. So what what areas need to be kind of developed in terms of technology, do you feel like? And I guess how can the treasure hunt and Better Plants kind of help people get to that place?
That's a tough question. Really, I guess it comes to, especially a very large industry, and if you're talking about smelting, we're using hundreds of megawatts of load. It's pretty hard to say I'm going to put a windmill and a solar panel up and supply that load. But I think there is, and maybe I'm skirting the question, these virtual energy power purchase agreements, ability to get a green form of energy to supply the process, short of having to try to construct that themselves. And of course, so I guess I look at it as you can use less, you can sharpen your process that you have, or go to new technologies. So what new technologies are out there, and they're out there, that can help a process and can become economically viable for that process. And I guess that's the hard part, is making it economically viable. And when I was at Alcoa, there's plenty of programs to say, hey, we can make a nearly carbon-free aluminum, but it's very expensive to do that. So are there programs, are there incentives, and is the technology there to help advance it?
Great, thank you, Walt. Did anyone else have any thoughts on that before we close out?
No, I think Walt covered that one pretty as well as it can be covered at this point.
Great. Terry, back to you.
Well, great. Thank you, Scott, for facilitating the Q&A. Just a couple of comments. So there were lots of very important resource and links. And so you can watch for an email to each of you with a recording as well as the presentations. And we'll try to highlight any of those links that Daryl mentioned. I do want to do a little call out to Advanced Energy on the 50,001 Ready program. They are currently running a cohort, and Mike Stowe is the contact there. So if you're interested in that 50,001 Ready, and Advanced Energy is really running that and has some great outreach and training resources on that in North Carolina. So please reach out to them. With that, I want to thank all of our attendees for attending. There's going to be a brief survey at the end. And again, Daryl Cox, thank you so much. And Walt Brockway, we really appreciate you all sharing the resources from Better Plants and Treasure Hunt, and hope that our NC audience will take advantage of those. And thanks for Marcia on ESI. So thanks to everyone.